had a right to retaliate. It's the first law. Well, it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to be here in the lost city of Atlantis. You know, last night I got a little testy for a minute or two because I wanted to be clear about the signals that we send. And one of the signals that I wanted to be clear that was sent already was that we're vulnerable to penetration, and we haven't decided that we can investigate things done to us ourselves. Now, this power to investigate, that shit works. I've been in some places where the FBI and other white law enforcement agencies and others have had a hard time finding the perpetrators of black people until the black people declared, that's all right, we'll find them my damn selves. Now, I was in Detroit. White fella ran over a 17-year-old black scholar student. Ran over him in the middle of the black community. Him and another white gentleman. They left. The brother laying there in the street dead. And the FBI said that they couldn't find the white boy. Well, I just happened to be coming in that next weekend, and we talked about it a long time, the brothers and sisters there in Detroit. And it was decided that we might have a better chance finding this white boy than the FBI. So on the evening news, there was a press conference held at the Malcolm X Center there on Dexter Avenue. And the community declared that they was going to find the white boy, and they took the white boy's face out the picture, put it on a wanted poster, and during the press conference ran into the street and started posting it up everywhere. We want this white boy. The FBI found the white boy by the time the 10 o'clock news came on. Right? I was at Iowa State then, Ames. You all probably saw the Donahue show and other reflections about racism in Iowa. It's true. White boy has been hidden away there. The state has a liberal perception, but it's tough on black people in Iowa. And we got to get back in the thing of jumping in cars and going to help people out again. We used to do that. We used to just all jump in the car. 300-400 of us came from different directions and went in and helped people. We got to start having Help Another City weekend. We need to do that. Because some things are out of order, and in some places they cannot hold it back. So we have to reinforce it. This takes some supervising responsibility. Somebody has to rise up and be responsible for more than just themselves. And this extra level of responsibility will give us an opportunity to fill in a lot of gaps. There are a lot of positions available in helping the Africans, the victims of white supremacy. As I go to many of these colleges, I've asked in many of the African communities, who runs certain things that have a predominant impact on our community? And almost uniformly, no one has ever known who run the IMF, the World Bank, the FEMA, the GAC. And I ask these questions as a way of seeing, after all of the things we've been to, because see, I know y'all go to a lot of stuff, and y'all like a lot of things, and we have really gotten heavy on the Afrocentric thing. But there's a void between our feelings and our ability to do what we're supposed to do, and the white boy know the gap. He know the gap. That's what I call now and tell pro. That's the gap of being able to match your frustration with the name of a known white supremacist. We are well aware now of an adjective called white supremacy. Now we got to find some supremacist to pin it on. Everything is done by somebody. So the last thing left is pinning it on them. The fingering. ID, up against the wall, you fucked our people. Yes, we must have some determination about this. But the problem is that in some places the line isn't held, the gaps are open. Hey, somebody could go, for example, I've gone, I tell you, hundreds of lectures to every city, every African-centered group, every major university, every major black university, and the questions that are asked always have the no response. So, any one of you in this room who are hearing me who are unemployed, how many of y'all in here are unemployed? Don't be ashamed, ain't nothing wrong with that. Shit, I'm unemployed. There's a job available for anyone who wants to make themselves an expert on the World Bank. I mean, every city I've gone into, when I asked about the World Bank, nobody knew. So I'm saying, having gone to all of those places, if you took 2-3 months and gathered all the information you could possibly find on just the World Bank and studied it in a way that you can stand up and translate that information back to your community like we're doing here today, there's a position awaiting you. Your people need you now. Ain't nobody going to fall over their feet trying to be the person. Because everybody's so busy doing something else, they couldn't imagine. They don't even want to take a chance on themselves. I go to them colleges, they be writing them papers. The professor say, I want you to give me 10 pages on this double space. Give me 20 pages on. Then they leave college, they don't write shit. They don't write a paper for their people. You know what I mean? It has no application. If it doesn't have a letter behind it, it has no value to them. Something was missed. There was a gap there. You get so smart, you don't know how to put it in a spot. And so there could be all sorts of profound assumptions and conclusions made by people who just take the time to gather the information and then take the risk. You see, if you talk to an African, how many of y'all talked to any Africans lately? Right? Okay. Who run the International Monetary Fund? Oh, you don't have to answer. This is my man. He knows. No, he don't. Who run the World Bank? Just got a new head of the World Bank. Nope, he used to head it 3 presidents ago. Now, you see, that's the job description for the one who will rise up to do it. You're sitting there listening to me because I knew where your gap was. Right? That's why I'm here. I knew the gap. Now, it ain't easy deciding that you got this gap because everybody don't want to throw down that somehow after every fucking thing we've been to, we still left without the critical information. That's now IntelliPro. And I'm going to tell y'all there's some great people that you love a lot, but they wouldn't get caught fingering nobody for you. Right? That's how they keep in the game. And the game become how to get a little bit better off under these trying circumstances. Right? Well, I want to win. I believe that we can win this. We don't have to keep waiting forever to come to some conclusion that we're going to have to stand up and make some sort of decision, and then we got to do things. It's just that simple. And I'm proud to have the privilege to speak now. I'm not going to always have this privilege to speak to you because I'm going to become outlawed. Not because there's anything unlawful about what I do. It is in fact spiritual. But as times get tougher, that will become more and more of an obstacle to the opposition. Therefore, you will only get me in suppressed fashion. And don't worry about that, because I remember when Khomeini got thrown out of Iran, he went to France, and he threw down in cassette tape. And it went all the way back, Chet, went all the way back in, and on a certain day, everybody was asked to do a certain set of something. We're going to talk about those type of things too. See, somehow we've got to come to some conclusions. So we're going to have to go out and help some people. So they was having cross burnings in Iowa. When the students announced at Iowa State and Ames that they was going to go find the cross burners, and they didn't need the police. They had all kind of race forums and all this other stuff. And you know the Defamation League shows up, and then they want to act like they're going to police something. And then the process goes on of the people being victimized, and nobody calls a halt to it. So the students got up in the forum, all got in the doorway, and announced they was leaving the meeting to go find the cross burners. And you know what happened, don't you? Right. That's right, check. They went right out and found them. Because the worst thing in the world is to let a black person catch a white person and do what they're supposed to do because you have the right to do this and they don't want you to be aware of your rights. Right? See, we could announce, we go find the Atlanta murderers. Obviously, the evidence is still here. Statute of limitations of murder never runs out. Okay, check. Now, let me find this notebook up here. We're going to have a little discussion. Some of it's going to be good, some of it you're not going to like. Atlanta. All right. First thing, some of you who heard the radio show last night, how many of y'all heard the radio show last night? So I guess I don't need to do the Malcolm X part, do I? About the Alex Haley? Do we need to do that? See, we put it out there, he already gone. Somehow, right when we needed this man. Because I had announced in LA that we was looking for him. He was up in Washington, Seattle area. He was coming down to UCLA. And I was at a lecture a couple of weeks ago. And we started making plans to meet him when he got there so we could ask him this critical information about what's located on page 418. Now, my statement to you is, I I'm sure all of us read the book, but we didn't read the book. See, we're not looking at these things like footprints in the murder mystery of who murdered the black people. This is like Murder, She Wrote, right? And we're looking for something, and we believe that at the core of negativity, at the center of the opposition, are the primary perpetrators of our grief. So we are in pursuit of them. This is a righteous opportunity because we can prove that they have wronged us. So we are in the responsibility of right the wrong. So you gain certain extra rights when you're in that position. Now I appreciate brother for buying this book for me, because I mentioned that I needed to use the book for the lecture. Brother just turned right around in First World Bookstore and bought the book. Brother Yusuf, I appreciate you formally for what you did for me yesterday, so that I could have the opportunity to share this with you. I said I need the book. Brother just threw down so that you can hear what the one page say. Now all y'all got the book, and I know what the page say by heart. But sometimes you need to read it so everybody know it come from there. See, we have a hard time when it comes down to, well, what did he show to prove it? And I always say we bring good white information, because we like that. Say, oh yeah, brother proved it. He brought Newsweek and Time and the Post. He got the good white books by the great white professors. Yes, there's no doubt about it. The brother has his finger on it. Hey, brother. So you're right. So my suggestion is that, as brother said, am I ready? I don't need these things. I know it all. I know it all. But if I had to say Agnew wrote a book, say Haig was going to kill him, if I didn't show you the cover, you wouldn't believe me. So I had to go carry the cover. I paid extra money to carry all these boxes so I could show you the source of the backup behind it, because my job is to convince you that we've had enough and that we got the proof. You don't have the time to go get it. So that's my job for you, right? So I have to be on the point to say the proof of the murder mystery of who is trying to kill the Africans. Page 418, autobiography of Malcolm X. And we can just make this for the record. I like to make these things like trials. I'm a prosecutor. I'm prosecuting white supremacy, and you are the jury. And at different times I will ask you for some sort of affirmation one way or another. This is a proactive relationship. And if we're going to have a revolution, that's check. Not all right, that's check. If we're going to have a revolution, then we ought to surely prepare to have some form of justice system. You here in Atlanta ought to have a meeting one day to pick 50 elders that beyond any reason of a doubt the community will accept as the arbitrators of the law. And you ought to come up with some force or some group of people who everyone accepts as clean enough to enforce the law and start the process of the transition. If there's an appeal of an injustice, the appeal is made to the court. Now y'all got to get a court quick here, because I got some grievances that I want to bring to the elders over some things related to me. So check on that. Let's get that quick. But I'm gonna make the stipulations here, so I'll be waiting for my hearing. In Washington, D.C., it's page 418. And if we don't build no justice system now, we won't have no need for one. Right? You will get to use what you make preparations for. Check. In Washington, D.C. and New York City, at least powerful civic, private, and governmental agencies and individuals were keenly interested in what Malcolm X was saying abroad. This is the epilogue section of the autobiography of Malcolm X. As I mentioned last night, this is the only portion of the book where, in the agreement between the two brothers, that Malcolm agreed not to edit or censor the epilogue. It was Alex Haley's only moment to write just what he chose to write. So this is page 418 of Alex Haley's A Part to Itself. Now, every time somebody do something to the people, different times they give confessions. You got to hear the confession, because that's the only way you can get some reconciliation, is to have some confession, right? That's some message. Now, this is his confession for something that he felt sorry about, but the people didn't know to exercise it on him. Now, Washington, D.C., New York City, those are two big cities. D.C. and New York City. The United Nations is located there. That Hasidic Jewish Diamond District is located there. That's 80% of the diamonds from South Africa drop off on 47th Street. What do they mean they ain't been involved in exploitation of our people? They still are, but don't worry, we're going to see them and their local affiliates here in Atlanta. Check. Okay, because see, we taking names right now. We're going to call out networks and people say, well, I heard that Copley. He in Lee Town, he talked that shit, he wasn't doing nothing. So people go sick these people when I leave. So don't underestimate what happens when it gets recorded or affirmed into the tape, because people go do things. And you never know which one it is. You can't even stop it. I can't even stop it either, but I know for a fact that it happens. Washington, D.C. and New York City, at least powerful civic, private, and governmental agencies and individuals were keenly interested in what Malcolm X was saying abroad. They would have to have international interest. It would be something like the Council on Foreign Relations or the Bilderberger Group or the, this was a Foreign Policy Association. See, there was no Trilateral Commission in the 60s, but the people who assumed that leadership model in the 70s were around in the 60s. They just used other institutions to base their aggression in. So when Malcolm was there were others. Says, and they were speculating upon what he would say and possibly do when he returned. In upstate New York, I received a telephone call from a close friend who said he had been asked to ask me if I would come to New York City on an appointed day to meet with a very high government official who was interested in Malcolm X. I received a phone call from a close friend, unnamed. Check, we need to find the friend. Who said he had been asked to ask me. Who asked him to ask you? Check number 2. If I would come to New York City on an appointed day. I did fly down to the city. Now, if anybody call you and say, you want to know something about Brother Steve, and they're going to fly you to another city to find these things out, don't you go. Or if there's on Sister Sharon or Brother Tahaka, or any of the other brothers or sisters who are intimately involved in trying to do something for you, don't let others engage you in a dialogue that ain't not only their business, but ain't even our business. All right. Yeah. And we have to have a place to report in someone who's out asking about somebody. And don't take it as casual dialogue either, where it just drops out in a conversation full of 3 or 4 other things. That's the way it works most effectively in another dialogue. And don't get rushed to answer. Like somebody pressing you quick, you don't answer, somehow you're going to lose some face. Fuck the face. Keep a hold of the critical information that will protect the people that protect you. We must do this. We must close off the community. Don't bring the whites in. I'm proud to see there's none here. Right? I'm proud of that. Now, let me say, it ain't that we ain't got some white people who tip information and other things on other whites. It don't mean that I hate all of the white people. There is a certain group amongst the white people who kick even other white people's ass, and many of them like me for teaching them how deep that ass kicking was. Hey, Archie Bunker and the rest of them types are the real yokes that keep the thing together. We second on the yoke line. We knew we didn't have nothing coming from the jump. We think we do. We still in that. We're breaking though. Now, I did fly down to the city. My friend accompanied me to the offices of a large private foundation. Well, we should know something about every foundation anyway. You should have in your house the annual report of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Field Foundation, the Sloan Kettering Foundation, the Russell Sage Foundation. We can go on down the line. Each and every one of us should have a file and an annual report on these people. Why? Because when you look through the books, the funding for the things we hate are in there. Right? Plus some of our people dipping in the back, getting the dough, swearing they're tricking the white man out of the money. That's not so. That's not, they can't trick him enough. Now, so we should all have files on these foundations. You probably have a local foundation, a community trust, and there's probably a donors foundation group here. The foundations link together in little overseeing groups to assure no bad niggas get grants. So they have a little lookout post, so there should be some clearinghouse. For those of you who take this program seriously, go out and begin to come to some conclusion about who's getting the money and what they did for the money, and give a ruling as to whether this is adverse. See, I mentioned the United Way. Every city I go in, I say, go check your United Way. Now, obviously, they didn't even confess they got the devil in their thing. Right? That's a self-confession. But we also know that the United Way sometimes funds projects that serve as early warning systems and spy on the people. So you need to go to the United Way. You have the right, because it's not-for-profit tax exempt, to go in there and read who got the money and what they got it for, and read the reports that they file for the money, because they got to file a monthly report. And sometimes is there any tension in your neighborhood? Now, you might not know what that word means. That means who's causing trouble out there. Another one might say you're in a rumor control network. It's code language for spy activity. Now, everybody be looking for the FBI, the CIA, and crew-cut white boys and thin ties. Hey, how about the alcoholism treatment worker who got to keep the files on the alcoholics? You in it. Hey, how about that mental health worker who only thing the white man afraid of is somebody just don't know enough to respect him and go kick his ass in a crazy fit? Oh yeah, that's all he got him out there for. Now, yeah, that's it too. That's the CIA too. It's in them community organizations. When every time you go to that meeting outside the agency, you got to do that meeting report form.
There you go, Bobby.
Check. Yeah, that's where you got to say what went on at the meeting that you left the building for. So you went to the Copley meeting, maybe. Maybe not this type of meeting, but when people trying to get out the office, they come up with all kinds of stuff. But then they end up having to, being good, they got to
File a report.
file a report. That's right. Okay, great. Now, brother said that all of you all must, at the appropriate time, make a huge donation. Now, so we have to look out for those things too, okay? Anybody who's been into Urban League and NAACP or SCLC, you know you got to write up the same kind of activity forms. Yeah. Social workers, welfare workers. Now, what do they need the CIA for when we give up all that information?
Check.
Then they got things called leadership training, where somebody identified you as a potential threat, call you a leader, and you sit up there and tell them everything about yourself under the guise of being trained by the opposition. Yeah, leadership training. Keep an eye on that. That's a covert action program. It ascertains the capabilities of the leader. Hey, look here. CIA got an office. Where that at? Come on up here. Where you at? The Office of Leadership Analysis. Would you imagine that the CIA got an office? Says biographic intelligence. Now look, they got Gaddafi's picture. This is a CIA manual, brochure that was handed out at the Black Caucus weekend up there in September, where the CIA, the State Department, FBI had big booths there with Philip Morris and all the Budweiser and all the other exploiters. They were all there together. Black Caucus. Hey, right? They paid, right? See, they can pay their way in on the community. See, when people with no values can never say no. Check.
Check.
Biographic analysis in the Office of Leadership Analysis writes reports on leaders and organizations and answers a wide variety of related questions by researching files, interviewing persons, and using CIA varied sophisticated means of collecting data. Office of Leadership Analysis. That's in the CIA. Now, okay, fine. Y'all can have one. But why don't we have our own on them? This would resolve some of the problem. But in our community, when you start trying to pinpoint who it is, you're going to come up with people coming up with all sorts of weird conclusions about who the leaders of them are. Somebody will tell you it's the Klan. And they're going to have them going to Forsyth County trying to get a piece of some trash. Right? My point is that obviously they take their role in controlling the world seriously and studying emerging one thousands of us is a part of their post. It said individuals and organizations. So I suggest that some of you probably are profiled there in Langley, Virginia, where when you walk into the lobby, the inscription says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." That serves as a warning to the staff. Don't ever let the truth get out. That's the day we lose. But I've been checking them old revolutions they've been having over there in Europe and stuff. It's real exciting. See, every time the revolution comes, you just run in and get the file cabinets. Right? Now, I got an article up here. Yeah, that's right. Here's an article. This is an interesting thing. Germans flocked to see secret files. Relatives, friends were informants. Now, the point of this is to show you the depth of an intelligence system in a part of Europe that failed. This wasn't even a good one, because they broke the wall down. These guys lost. So I'm telling you that ones that are better than this are deeper than that. Okay. Risking friendships. This is the Herald Sun, Durham, North Carolina, January 3rd, 1992. This was an AP report, deadline Berlin, so it ran around the country. Risking friendships and even marriages, thousands of people applied Thursday to see their secret police files at a new commission that promises to reveal everything the hated force held on millions of East Germans. Who informed on me? Question mark. Or did anyone inform on me? Were the questions as people flocked to the offices in Berlin and 14 other cities controlling access to the files of the Stasi, as the East German secret police force was called. The Commission for Documents of State Security Services of the German Democratic Republic were opened for the first time. It says, for example, Vera Wallenberger, once an East German opposition activist and now a member of the United German Parliament, learned recently that her husband, Knut, had informed on her activities for years. The disclosure shattered their family. Quote, Miss Wallenberger, "I had the worst surprise behind me." She called the files a dangerous mixture of facts and fiction. Said the Stasi was known to use relatives, friends, and co-workers as informants. Now, I just registered that with you to keep in context why this confession by Alex Haley doesn't sound out of order in consideration of how deep they go to get the information, and sometimes the only ones know you are the ones who with you every day. So, as a check, I do believe what Malcolm said. Asked Malcolm, did he trust his wife? He said, no. He said, I don't even trust myself. So, let trust be a model of activity as opposed to something given blindly and counters what you're seeing happen. Right? You got to go by the formula. Can't be weak for that feeling. Be weak for the standard, not for the individual. Come up with the standard. This will be protecting us at another point in time when the ones you love ask you not to do what you got to do.
That's right, brother.
Now, these are intimate lines of attachment. These are not easy to pull apart. It says, my friend accompanied me to the offices of a large private foundation well known for its activities and donations in the civil rights area. Large private foundation. I suggest it is the Ford or the Rockefeller Foundation. Says, is well known for its activities and donations in the civil rights area. I met the foundation's president, and he introduced me to Justice Department Civil Rights Section Head Burt Marshall. See, he gives up the name of the little government guy. Marshall was chiefly interested in Malcolm's finances, so why was he willing to talk about it? Particularly how his extensive traveling since his ouster had been paid for. This is critical information now, because he could have gone for taxes. You see, if they thought that maybe this was a tax beef, they would have whipped him with the taxes and he might be in jail instead of dead. I told him that to the best of my knowledge, meaning he worked very hard to be honest with the beast. Come on. I told them several payments from, to the best of my knowledge, the several payments from the publisher had financed Malcolm X, along with fees he received from some speeches and possible donations that his organization received, and that Malcolm X had told me of borrowing money from his sister Ella. Now he gonna tell a white man about his sister Ella's business. that recently the Saturday Evening Post had brought the condition rights to the book for a substantial sum, and that soon to be received. Marshall listened quietly, intently, and asked a few questions concerning other aspects of Malcolm X's life, then thanked me. I wrote to Malcolm X in Cairo that night about the interview. He never mentioned it. Well, why in the fuck? He didn't get the letter. How you gonna get a letter in Cairo? He couldn't get mail in New York. But the perception is that the only way he could clear his conscience was to say that he tried to tell Malcolm that they were looking for him, and I'm trying to separate for you a dialogue about the difference between owners and operators. You see, at this meeting, the information was given that the owners decided that this international grassroots possibility that Malcolm wanted to give to the community, that we have yet to get still, all these years later, an international grassroots community organization, we still do not have it today. And they felt that that would jeopardize their international ability to bring on a new world order. Therefore, this is the information at the owners' meeting that the decision was made that the brother had to go. Now, the other story is about the brothers who, working for the operator, pulled it off. Separate your owners from operators. I'm an owner finder. Because I believe that we can get the operators off our back when we cut the master off of theirs. Not that we want to free them, we owe them the accumulation of their activities. Justice. My eye. We owe them that. But we also know that there's a core, or, hey, keep cutting a piece of the cancer out. It'll just go to another area. You got to go to the root of the thing. You got to go up under it. Therefore, we got to get the owners. That's where I come in. It's the owner's analysis. So, we had asked for Alex Haley to stand and account for this. I had appealed in the Slave Theater tape. I got a videotape up here for $30 live at the Slave Theater in New York. Well, we made the appeal in New York, where I suspected the greatest lovers of Malcolm should be in some proactive I love you Malcolm activity. Also said very clearly in Washington, D.C., that Carl Rowan is the other potential person who should be brought into a room and interrogated for his role about who told him to block Malcolm on the international move. Those are the ones who ordered the killing. Check. And in the spirit of loving Malcolm this month, brother, we are looking for the ones who ordered your killing. Come on. 2, I'm pleased to be staying at the beautiful Barclay Hotel.
All right.
I want to say that. I want to say that because some of you who have come to see me while I have been there are making it there for the first time. And that's not necessarily good. You see, when someone's under attack, sometimes you need to just go stand outside of the building and say, I'm just standing here with you, I love you. Because if you don't help other people when they're under attack, who the fuck gonna help you? Check. Check. Now, every article I ever saw on the attack on Yahweh ben Yahweh called this brother charismatic. Now see, that give me another clue to who got the bullet and who did they let play with the ballot. Now this charisma is a dangerous thing. This is an extraordinary characteristic that gets the people all juiced up and excited, and they forget about the burden of the day. This is something that allows them to change their lifestyle. Now that's a revolutionary movement. You change in your, listen, that's break. That's off of it, totally. Now, we have all thought that it was best for all of us to speak, all of us, about the roundup of black leadership, because as Brother Reverend Cohen sits in jail, brother from Cairo, Illinois,
Yes, sir.
you see his article in the Final Call?
Yes, sir.
As the Nation of Islam is under attack, Brother Wali Muhammad, my friend, 37-year-old black man, dies of a heart attack.
Come on.
This brother don't fit none of the characteristics. He don't smoke, he don't drink, and don't have an ounce of fat on his body. He is only the editor of the greatest newspaper we got in our community right now. Right? I had to give it that. And I remember when it was a month proactively, how hard the brother fought to make it twice a month. How hard he made it fight to be once a week. This is an activity, this is a proactive charge, and the brother went out, and we is looking at it.
Come on.
I wonder, listen, the nation needs your help. They need you to stand up and say, I didn't like you attacking Brother Waleed. You don't have to check in with nobody to stand up and say that you are touched and affected by something that's done, and you wouldn't look likely on this type of activity, and you too looking for who could be a perpetrator of that type of quiet death. I was in Chicago. All them niggas love Harold Washington, right? Harold Washington made millions of dollars for black people. Some of them even down here in Atlanta. And then when that brother fell down and died, they all went looking for another master. Just stepped right over the brother. They murdered this brother. This was a charismatic politician. And I separate that from a pragmatic Andy Young or Maynard Jackson. Pragmatic. Well, in the face of danger of a greater opposition, I'll kiss that ass.